Harriet is the nosy neighbor of cohabitating chemists Calvin Evans and Elizabeth Sod in Bonnie Garmis's immensely famous debut novel Lessons in Chemistry, which is set in the 1960s. Blunt-spoken and unhappy with her caricature of a bad husband, Garmis calls him dull and stupid. With a thicket of body hair, Harriet becomes the go-to babysitter for Mad, Elizabeth and Calvin's daughter, as well as a metaphor for all unfulfilled white women who discover new possibilities after what is supposed to be their prime. Harriet hardly resembles any of those characteristics in Lessons in Chemistry, the Apple TV Plus adaptation of Garmis's novel. She continues to live next door to the two protagonists who are brilliant in science, but she's also a black woman, living in a predominantly black neighborhood. Calvin and Elizabeth are the only nearby white residents, happily married to a military doctor, a mother of 4 small children, and someone who is attempting to achieve her own very active goals. The Apple TV Plus lessons are forced to address something the book does not: the civil rights movement that brought racial tensions to an unavoidable boil during the time period in which this story takes place. This reimagining of Harriet represents the most significant departure from the original text in this attractive but undemanding adaptation. This change-up serves as a metaphor for both the excellent-intentioned showrunner Lee Eisenberg, writer for The Office and co-creator of Jury Duty, and his writers bring to this material, as well as Lessons in Chemistry's main flaw: an inability to adapt its source material in surprising or enlightening ways. Given what was happening in the nation at the time, it is understandable that someone may feel the want to attempt to build an intersectional tale out of a white feminist one. It doesn't do Harriet any favors to splice her experiences onto a series that is largely dedicated to expressing the plot and concepts of the book. The protagonist is still, without a doubt, Elizabeth Sod, the realistic, intensely serious scientist who finally uses her chemical expertise to land a job as host of a well-liked culinary program, demoting Harriet's journey to a supporting role. A marginalized character is introduced in Lessons in Chemistry, and subsequently her narrative is neglected. Then there is Aja Naomi King, who gives Harriet a quiet force and a warmth of spirit that piques your interest, more than the series is ready to reveal. In episode 6, Harriet finally loses it when Elizabeth, who is meant to be progressive, says she can't join her in a sit-in to oppose a freeway that would pass through their area. She yells at Elizabeth, alluding to the crowd of white women watching Supper at 6. "You always talk about the things keeping women down, but have you looked at your audience lately?" In the early 1960s, would a black lady have been confident enough to say this to a white person, even if they were friends? Although it is questionable, King gives you the impression that Harriet might, and that Lessons in Chemistry would deal with Elizabeth's white privilege in an unexpected way. But practically immediately as the problem is brought up, Lessons in Chemistry rushes to save its protagonist so that the audience won't have to endure too much misery. Lessons in Chemistry fails to provide a novel examination of female empowerment, in part due to the fact that the plot is somewhat well-known. Similar situations and themes, such as puritanical beliefs about marriage and female sexuality, the heavy grind of first-time parenting, and males who mock and undermine women's goals, have been addressed in other programs set in earlier decades, with a deeper feeling of concentration. I can think of Glow, Mad Men, Mrs. America, and Good Girls Revolt. Other than demonstrating how significant it is when women who are pigeonholed as mothers or wives are treated like the intellectually rigorous human beings they are, the series, while amusing and well-made, doesn't offer any new insights into the gender dynamics that stifled so many women in the pre-Ms. Magazine era. That's no little thing. Lessons in Chemistry does not, however, appear to believe that this is sufficient to justify its importance. It is also difficult to simplify Garmis's book and leave out some of its excessively adorable distractions. That includes a section that is fully recounted from 630's perspective, the couple's cherished dog, and is recreated in episode 3 with B.J. Novak, giving the Shaggy Pets ideas voice. Lessons in Chemistry goes to great lengths to create new characters that are likable, so a change in tone is not something the series needs. As enjoyable as it is to watch, you can't help but wonder about the morality of a program that could have given Harriet King's character more time on screen, but instead gives it to a dog that has Ryan from The Office as its voice.